hope lunch was good. I'm up here on the balcony, which I'm told is where John F. Kennedy gave the last inaugural address from here. It was John F. Kennedy who did it right up here. Pretty amazing. A bit of history there for you. So I think we had a lot of activity going on out there with exhibits, so that's great. Hopefully everyone got a chance to see some of the great things going on. And I hope the lunch was good for everyone. But we're going to get things started because we're running a little behind anyway, so we don't want to take any more of your time. So I'm going to get going with the very first speaker here. So I now have the honor of moderating our final group of TED Talk style presenters. As before, our speakers will have 8 minutes only, and there'll be no Q&A. First up, we have Greg Bateman, Managing Director, Federal Industry Ecosystem, Microsoft.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, thank you, Todd. So it's right after lunch, no food comas, I hope. I can see everybody who's nodding off down there. So I'm here to talk to you guys about two buzzwords. One middle-aged buzzword, the cloud, and one more young buzzword, blockchain. And being a middle-aged guy myself, we'll talk about the intersection of the two. This has been actually a very great session, and there's been a lot of discussion about the use cases for blockchain. And I think those of us that have been around the business for a while know that any technology is not going to be a magic bullet and it's not going to replace everything that has come before. And I think that's going to be true of blockchain too. But it's also true that technologies, while they may appear to have great promise and then you run into some problems with it, will over time persist and actually deliver value. In government and just in general, blockchain applies to places where there's independent actors and there is a lack of trust in general. And I think those of us here in DC can understand that that's pretty much true of the federal government. You might think the federal government is, one big monolith that plays happily with each other day to day, but we know that that's not true, even within a single agency, right? And so there's great use cases for this across the board. What we've seen across the various industries that are taking a look at blockchain today, we heard earlier today about the financial services industry and what they're looking at, and we've seen use cases in retail and manufacturing and a whole host of other industries, is that there are analogs to all of that in federal as well. And the ones that I think are going to apply to federal and that we've seen the pilot projects in federal address are around inventory management, supply chain management, logistics, and things of that nature. That is, I think, truly low-hanging fruit. And will apply in civilian agencies and certainly, I think, in defense and public safety agencies. Think here DHS, think here DOD, where the problems of inventory management are legion and highly complex. So, where are we now in the life cycle of the adoption of this technology? I submit that we're heading towards the trough of disillusionment, and I think that was mentioned earlier today as well. We're past the stage now where we've learned some things about blockchain and how it's going to be used. We've seen some pilot projects go, and we've seen some challenges. We've learned that the technology is not really mature yet, right? It's open source. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to make it work. Sometimes it just stops working, as they said before, and says out of gas, right? We've learned that there's a lot of labor that needs to go into it, so the proof of concepts are expensive. We've also learned that it doesn't really integrate yet very well with what came before. All your enterprise systems built on, old standing relational database technology. The result here is that where blockchain exists today in organizations, they're islands. We have islands of blockchain out there. And as Tony Scott warned us earlier today, we do have to be careful about this island or balkanization of blockchain being the de facto way things happen going forward. You don't want that to be the case, right? You don't want every particular department of an agency or subcomponent of an agency doing their own blockchain thing and just reinventing silos, as tends to happen in the federal government. So, there's work to be done. Blockchain is nascent. It's got great potential. It wasn't built, though, for the enterprise, right? Ledgers were built to be public. They weren't built to necessarily integrate with what came before. Even some of the advancements that came in the second generation of blockchain, if you think about Ethereum with smart contracts, were an advancement over the first generation, but did not yet really address existing enterprise infrastructure, right? And so there's things to think about. And here's where the middle-aged buzzword actually can help with the cloud. If you want to pilot things and you want to drive experimentation, right? And you want to remove heavy, sort of integration and sort of getting open source stuff to work together, et cetera. You would want to, have a way to quickly click a button and get a blockchain node stood up in a cloud someplace. You would want to do that perhaps across multiple nodes in a blockchain. So have consortia that you could set up across various ledgers, across various blockchain types. That's all possible today in multiple cloud technologies that are available to government agencies today, right? You would also want to, whoops, I clicked the wrong one. You would also want to have a way to integrate the blockchain that you stand up with the enterprise stuff that you already have, right? And that's also where the cloud can help you out. There's a lot of sort of technology in many different cloud types that allow for integration with the systems that might run in your data center. They don't have to all run on the cloud. It can run in your data center. It can run in your partner's data center and other agency data centers. And so you'll want to think about that as something that can help you experiment and help you learn how to apply blockchain to your use cases without a huge investment up front, and that allow you to sort of iterate quickly to learn. And then you're going to want to think about how do you make it easy to provide a user interface to this, right? Because blockchain in and of itself is just, there's nothing to see, really, right? And so the interface to that is the important thing. And so you'll want to have an easy way for application development to happen. There are people that are making tools that write directly to the blockchain, application development tools. That's part of the maturation of this technology that needs to happen, and it's underway now. And so what you see on the screen there is, an application that was developed with this set of tools that would work for Android devices or iOS devices or websites, et cetera, that write directly to blockchain and then can integrate again with your enterprise systems. But that's not where things are going to end, too. And so on the horizon, there is work towards establishing new standards to make it easier for enterprise uses of blockchain. And then the one that's coming up next is called is driven to enable confidential consortia. And the shorthand framework for that is the COCO framework. And what that's addressed to is performance and scalability of blockchain scenarios, data privacy and security, governance of a consortium, right? So we've heard earlier today about, you establish your consortium in advance, and then people argue about the governance of that. How is somebody going to join? How will you decide to kick somebody out if they're not behaving? Things of that nature. And then, of course, energy consumption, which we've seen in blockchain, is really difficult. And so, I'll get to the last slide right there, right? The COCO framework is going to be an open source technology. It's up on GitHub. Go check that out if you're interested in seeing what's coming next to make it easy to do blockchain in government. That's it.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you.